MyMac Podcast 861. Now we're getting somewhere.
Hi everyone and welcome to this week's mighty MyMac Podcast. Yes, that pesky Apple car just won't go away just when you thought it was safe to start looking at what analysts say again. This crops up once again, proving the old saying, analysts are idiots, who will say anything to get you to part ways with your money in the direction they're being paid to tell you to spend it all. Okay, the saying might not be that old. In fact, we might have made it up here on the spot, but it doesn't make it any less true, does it, Guy?
It does not. And yes, we did make that up right here on the spot. Yeah, I guess old sayings just aren't as old as they used to be.
No,
in this internet age.
No, sayings are sayings as long as they're sayings.
Yeah. It's almost like that. That should be a meme.
Me.
Because memes last forever.
They do. So what have you been doing this last week?
Well, honestly, other than some internet drama, which I'm
not going
to go into.
No, make it up.
Well, no, I can't. I can't. I don't want to talk about the internet drama. It's just
move on.
But today there is some stuff going on. I'm taking a good portion of my family, about half, to the airport to sit.
So that portion is 50% then.
Yes, right. Because half is 50%. Yes. They're going to the airport today to sit in a pressurized metal tube that will fly roughly 500 miles per hour at about 6.5 miles up into the air to go to Idaho. Now, they have a very good reason for going to Idaho that doesn't involve the gorgeous scenery that they have out there, but that is a plus. They're actually going out to see Tracy's mother, my mother-in-law.
Cool.
And Guy Jr.
the outlaw
is going with them. The outlaw?
Yeah.
Which outlaw?
Well, we used to call our in-laws the outlaws.
Oh, okay. I get jokes.
You get jokes.
Once you explain them, I get jokes. Yes, I do. How about you? What are you up to?
Busy week, cleaning windows, cutting the lawns, tidying up the garden, as well, both daughters are home with partners, so we've got a house full, all hammering the Wi-Fi at the moment. And also this week I heard a number of podcasts talking about that child abuse scanning thing. And I'd just like to clarify a few things. Mm-hmm. What you said last week in that middle section, I think 99% of it was accurate. We did divert when we were talking about pictures being taken from our devices and being looked at.
If I said that wasn't true.
Yeah, correct. So if that's how it came over, because I think that's how it came over to me slightly, and that's not what happens, because what they're doing is basically using the CSAM, which is some sort of process, database. and and they're using that database to compare the images and then sending it off. And if they do find a match,
they're not even comparing images; they're comparing.
It's the data.
Hashes.
It's the data. Yeah, yes, the hashes. That's right. So it's all very secure.
Yes.
Anyway, so I don't have to worry about people looking at possible images of children because they think that it might be. These are against an existing database, and if you get a match on that database and it's not a match, then there will be all sorts of process that you can go
checks
through
and
the
balances.
machine checks. Yeah. So at the end, but what I wanted to say, Guy, was at the end of that. At the end of that, I said to you, how do you feel about Apple? Do you feel secure? And you kind of said, well, you're feeling a little bit, iffy about the way things were going. Well, actually, after you still do, that's a surprise to me, because I actually feel a lot more comfortable now about the process. Mind you, I'm not in the States where it's happening first, of course.
Well, I don't remember if we went into one of the reasons why I think Apple is doing this. And I believe there's some potential legislation in the EU
Yeah, I've got a
that
feeling
will hold them responsible.
Well, a couple of but the thing is, it's not just Apple; it's lots of other organisations. Now, what
Yes.
we didn't mention, I don't think too much. I can't remember us mentioning it, is that there are lots of other organisations that hold photos have been doing this sort of thing for a long time
For a
now.
while, yes.
It's not like it's
Google, Facebook.
and they've been doing it on their servers. They've not been doing it, locally to the phone.
device.
And I think that's possibly where your uncomfortability, if that's a word, I think I've probably just made that up. Your uncomfortability comes in.
I'm submitting that right now to dictionary.com.
Yeah. Where you're where you feel a little bit uncomfortable about the fact that they're doing it on the phone with the algorithms. And I think a lot of people have actually brought that up as a case. But actually, I'm quite comfortable with what's going on. And I still think some of the things that we said about if a different organization then takes over at the head of Apple, that could change things as well. So, but you have to live in the now. You can't live in the what might be. So, Anyway, I think it's all good. Obviously, we don't condone child abuse or child abuse images.
No.
Not saying that, but I think the back end of some of the things that we were saying, I think is still right. I still think that, the companies have to be very careful in what they're doing. And I think Apple are being very careful and very clever in the way they're doing it at this point in time.
Well, we'll see how it's actually implemented because this hasn't happened yet.
No, not yet.
We'll see what happens with the implementation of it.
Yeah. Okay, so
so I don't get all uncomfortable. What was that word?
I can't. I'd have to listen back now. Uncomfortability.
Dictionary.com. Uncomfortability.
Okay, so the name Ordnance Survey hints at how it all began. So now in the next few weeks, I'm going to cover 1934 to 1945. Now, previously,
was there like some significant event that happened in that time?
There might have been, and we might just pull on that at some point. Okay. Well, in 1935, the retriangulation, that is a word, of Great Britain began. Thousands of trig pillars were built on inhospitable peaks to serve as solid triangulation points. Now, if you've not been to the UK, what we've got on fairly high peaks, well, the highest peak in an area, are these concrete triangulation.
I don't know. I'm feeling very uncomfortability about all
this. These triangulation points, and they obviously have pointers going to the next triangulation point, and they're points to be able to measure heights and distance and really closely make sure that the work of mapping the country is done really accurately. Well, this basically, the retriangulation started in 1935. Now, when the Second World War broke out, focus turned to the military, of course, back to the military. Because if you remember the last few weeks, we've been talking about it becoming much more commercial process of selling maps to, you and I, as it were, the general public.
Foreign hostile governments.
Well, possibly.
I'm sure this is going to go into.
A huge proportion of Ordnance Survey civilian staff were called up, and the Southampton HQ was bombed. Yes, by 1945, 342 million maps had been produced for the war effort. Now, if you remember, previously, I think it was something like 20 million maps had been produced commercially. So that's quite a big increase. A whole raft of new legislation and rapid development after the Great War brought demands for accurate, up-to-date mapping, as it would have, of course, as you can imagine. And in 1935, the Davidson Committee was set up to review the Ordnance Survey's future. That same year, the Director General, Malcolm McLeod, McLeod? That's not McLeod at all.
No, that's MacLeod.
He used a Macintosh, launched the retriangulation of Great Britain. Surveyors began the Olympian task of building the now familiar concrete triangulation pillars on hilltops and mountains throughout Britain. Most were made of cast concrete, but a few were built from local stone cemented together. Surveyors dragged heavy loads of materials over isolated land by lorry, pack horse, and sheer brute force. They had to go down as much as 15 feet under the surface to secure them in place. Wow. It was a rugged life for the surveyors, with few home comforts. Wet clothing, frozen fingers, and bleary eyes caused by long hours of observing were the order of the day and night. Around 6,500 trig pillars were put up in prominent positions around the country, and many remain in the landscape today. There's loads around us, and when you walk in the Southwest Coastal Path, you often come across them as well. Yeah, these shining white monoliths supported the theodolites and were intervisible with
liberty and justice for all.
Standing at one pillar to observe lights on the others. So basically, pretty much like they do trig today, you'll get a survey point with a camera on one point looking at a reflection point somewhere else. Ordnance survey was set on course for the 20th century. The metric National Grid Reference System number was launched together with the 25,000 scale series of maps. Now, I'll go through possibly what might be a darker period next week, Guy.
Ooh, okay, cool.
But now, Guy, we're on to Gaz's snippets. Okay, so
I like Gaz's snippets.
Good. Let's see how. There's fewer this week, but there's a good reason for that.
Because there's not really a whole lot going on.
Apple Watch credited with saving a man's life after fall. Now, I did pick up this one last week, but I don't think I'd put it in, and I thought about it, but, we're sparse this week, so I added in. Apple Watch has been credited with saving yet another life after alerting emergency services to what could have been a fatal fall. So on July 12th, a 25-year-old Brandon Schneider of Long Island visited the emergency room after suffering abdominal pain and a misdiagnosed kidney stone. There you go.
So that's known as law then, right? Life after watch?
Yes. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Send that in.
Dictionary.
Apple reportedly sent a team of employees to South Korea to discuss the Apple Car development. I think we might be talking about this a little bit later.
Maybe.
Apple call center workers fear AI-powered surveillance cameras in their homes.
Really? How does that work?
Well,
does somebody come in the middle of the night and go,
No. But if they're call centers, they've often got they're working from home and they've got their cameras on. And they're worried that those cameras are being AI.
Oh, for when they're on or off?
Yes, I know. 44% of iPhone users intend to upgrade to iPhone 13. That's a pretty big number, isn't it, really? 44%.
I'm still on the SE too.
Yeah, you like that for that small phone, don't you?
I do. I really, really do. I'm going to hold off.
You went bigger and bigger and bigger, but then you went small and, Apple are reportedly bidding on a film starring Jennifer Lawrence as Hollywood agent. Yeah.
Have you? Well, there's a little more to that. It's a Hollywood agent who dresses in a costume and gets the best deal for her clients by swinging some kind of weapon. I'm not quite sure how that all works.
That sounds like I really want to see the
I also don't know if this is supposed to be like just a story or based on something that really happened. I haven't seen anything along those lines yet, but that's like just a weird story. Okay, sorry.
Apple says it will reject government demands to use new child abuse image detection for surveillance. Now, there's been, going back to what we were talking about before, there has been lots of toing and froing about whether Apple will actually use the process that they're now using to scan to do other stuff. And Apple are definitely pushing back, saying, no, we're only going to be doing this for the CSAM stuff.
Well, let's hope it stays that way.
Well, absolutely. Apple has responded. I missed this actually. Has now responded to the call center worker complaints about plans to monitor them with cameras at home. So it didn't take long. Why does this get out into the ecosphere, Guy?
Because they have nothing else to talk
about. Why don't they do it internally, though? Why don't they do it internally?
A lot of times it's not Apple talking about it. It's employees going to, it's a form of pressure against the companies that they work for. So basically, anonymous employees take some story that they've either heard or have gotten from their companies, and they give it to the various tech blogs. And then the tech blogs go to Apple and say, well, have you got some kind of response to this? And Apple usually 9 times out of 10 is like, we have no idea what it is.
Well, let's wait for the response on this one. A group of Apple employees have been conducting internal surveys about what their colleagues think of a hybrid return to work. Apple has banned internal employee surveys on pay, equity, and much more. Well, we'll see about that.
Do an external employee survey. You guys all talk to each other. Who cares whether it's done through Apple or not? I would think if you want to do something that you don't want your company to know about, don't do it on the internal network. I mean, this is not like rocket science. It's pretty easy to figure out.
AMC begin to accept Apple Pay for buying movie tickets next year.
AFT. About time.
I know what you mean.
Give it a word in between. Dictionary.com. Okay.
Apparently, I saw a couple of these, so I just put it in quickly. Apple privacy exec details system to detect CSAM in new interview. There's another one later, and I'm just going to make a comment, but at the next one. Apple drops copyright lawsuit against Carillion.
Really?
For selling virtual iOS devices.
That's
Apple
interesting.
Has been fighting with Carillion in the court since August 2019 after the virtualization company started selling virtual iOS devices to security researchers. Following its first defeat last year, Apple is now dropping the copyright lawsuit against Carillion and its virtualization software. I've got not much more on that, I'm afraid.
There's something happened behind the scenes there.
Possibly, yes.
Yeah.
Well, there often is, isn't there? Share Apple Health data with doctors on Verizon's telehealth platform. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, we all know how secure cellular providers are with your data.
This next one surprised me. It's not really Apple-centric. WhatsApp will soon be able to transfer messages between iPhone and Android. Huh?
Couldn't that happen anyway?
WhatsApp made an appearance during Samsung's Unpacked event, revealing that it would soon be able to possibly transfer messages between iOS and Android devices. Now, I assume what they mean is you can transfer all of your messages if you change devices. That's what I'm assuming on this, because I assume that
because it's a weird story.
Yeah. I think what they mean is that you can pick up your messages, and if you want to move all of those messages from one device to the other, then that's what you can do. Correct me, folks, if I'm wrong on that one, please, because it just threw me, that one, a little bit. Because I thought,
that's kind of weird.
I thought, what's going on there?
What's all this then?
What's a multi-platform, isn't it? Apparently, Apple has released Mac OS 11.5.2 with bug fixes. Guy,
I have no idea what that means. Guy was late for the podcast.
Apple supplier Foxconn to begin building electric car vehicle in the US next year. Have I already said that one?
Well,
no,
it's going to come up. It's going to come up.
Spain adds support for storing COVID passports in the Apple Wallet. Good. New Apple research shows how AirPods could be used to monitor your respiratory rate. That's good. Apple original film Finch, starring Tom Hanks, to premiere on November 5th. Has Tom Hanks just been making Apple films recently?
And I saw a picture that's related to this. I haven't seen a trailer. I don't think they've released a trailer yet. But it's like a post-apocalyptic world. I mean, in the trailer, not in the trailer, but the story that I saw, it was like Tom Hanks, the star in a sci-fi film. When you say sci-fi to me, I'm thinking outer space. No, it's post-apocalyptic
Yeah.
stuff. And it's like, okay, just call it post-apocalyptic then. It's not science fiction.
Now, I think we ought to get Carl on to say that post-apocalyptic.
Really? Why?
Well, he'd got a whole post-apocalyptic something, hadn't he? He'd got a whole little tune, hadn't he? It's on the supercalifragilistic one. Yes.
I could play it. I've got it here someplace.
Well, if you can find it. Anyway, I'll just carry on and see if you can find it. Apple changes Eddie Q's job title to emphasize the growing focus on services even. Doesn't say surfaces at all. Apple releases Ted Lasso sticker pack for iMessage and Clips. Yeah, I bet that's going to get a lot of hammering. Apple employees internally raising concerns over the CSAM detection plans. Now, the last story I've got is Craig Federighi acknowledges confusion around Apple child safety features and explains new details about safeguards. Now, what I wanted to say about Apple and this whole process was it's taken an awful long time and a lot of confusion and a lot of people to understand actually Apple's doing a lot of the right things here, but their PR around it has been dreadful. I think the way they've explained it, the way they brought it all out, just hasn't been done very well. So the bad thing about this whole process has been Apple's explanation of the process. However, what they're doing is obviously very commendable. You're still looking for it, but you can't find it. We might play it later on in the show. Anyway, that, guy, is the end of Gaz's Snippets.
How can I ever thank you enough? Well, you can't.
Yeah.
That wasn't it, by the way.
That wasn't it. Anyway, I'm going to say to everybody, stand by. Oh, and by the way, at this very point in time, Carl is actually singing the thing that we might find later.
Yeah, probably.
While he's listening to this podcast.
In perfect harmony.
Sorry, if he's listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
So, everybody stand by, and we'll be right back.
And welcome back to the second part of the...
It's fake news, a blitz again, a Trump
the hell's that?
apocalypse. As crazy as it may sound, it's something really great. And if you say it loud enough, you always sound quite fake. Fake news, a blitz again, a Trump apocalypse. Trump diddly,
think.
Trump diddly, Trump diddly, Trump diddly, Trump diddly, Trump diddly, Trump diddly, Trump diddly.
Okay.
That'll do.
We're not going to play the whole thing, but yeah.
Much that we love Carl, we're not going to play the whole thing.
That didn't go out of solo. There we go. Now we're out of solo. Yeah, that's I think we actually talked about that on the show that Carl was on.
Yes.
Kind of the genesis of that song and how it was created and all those good things. It was a lot of fun to make, and thank you, Carl, for putting up with my insanity. Now you know what Gaz has gone through for the last 11 years. So, what we're going to talk about, I know, it's like an ice cream headache, Gaz, that just won't go away.
You may have the answer to my headache precisely. I've just realised I've been going to the doctors and he can't put his finger on it, but I think I can now understand exactly what it is.
Yeah. And there's no magic pill. There is no magic pill.
There's nothing.
No.
There's nothing.
You just deal with it.
Yeah.
So what we have this week, and this probably won't take as long as like what we did last week.
No.
That pesky A car, Gaz. That pesky A car that just will not go away. Yeah.
What are you talking about, Guy?
The Apple car. That doesn't exist.
Okay.
So, and the reason why this came up, it kind of popped up in the news. Now, according to our favorite people, analysts, Foxconn, which is that Taiwanese company that builds lots of stuff for Apple in various places all around the world, is at it again. The actual name, I don't know if you knew this, the actual name of the company is Honhai Precision Industries. So HHPI is
Right.
the actual name of Foxconn. And they are looking for lots of places to build a factory, a couple of factories. In fact, with one that is supposed to be right here, guys, in the good old USA.
Excellent.
I should have had a flag ready. This is me waving a flag that I don't have. There.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Nice.
the reason why they're doing
That's
this,
a nice flag.
that's a nice flag. And it's never touched the ground, guys, ever. Foxconn is making several moves in the electric vehicle industry, EV, by announcing their own EV platform, and they are partnering up with dictionary.com. No, with several existing companies, including some in mass transportation and software and hardware developers, a key point for infotainment and navigation options that many expect to see in EV cars. So where exactly does Apple fit in with all of this? And the thing is, it gets a little weird. The waters get so murky that the lines between a liquid and a solid sort of get blurred. The factory that Foxconn is rumored to be building, see what I mean, is supposed to not be for Apple, but for an existing known to be making electric cars, because that was their entire reason for being, Fisker. According to reports, this factory here in the U.S. for assembly, components, cafeteria food, who knows, is supposed to break ground and be ready at some undefined point in 2023. So, and this is why analysts make the G-men crazy. They will say these outrageously stupid things and expect everyone to sit there and go, oh, yeah, I could see that happening right away. So what the analysts are predicting is that Foxconn is going to build a factory in an unknown location somewhere in the United States that has enough people to support and enough land to support a manufacturing plant to build cars in less than 2 years, or 2 years if you want to look at all of 2023. And that's just not something that's going to be possible. It's unless you take like an existing manufacturing plant, and there are unfortunately quite a few of those around the United States, and retrofit them for EV production and have a car that is ready to be made with all of the various components that are outsourced, ready to be delivered to this as yet uncreated. Lots of new words in this podcast this week.
There are.
Yeah. Dictionary.com. They are this week's sponsor of the MyMac.com podcast. There's no way that this could happen in 2 years. And the fact that it's not even really for Apple at all, it's for this other company called Fisker. So why are people putting Apple's name on it?
Clicks.
Well, you think it's just because few people know what Fisker is as compared to Apple, and that, I mean, it seems like about every 5 years, whatever the trend is in manufacturing for some new item, like 5 years ago or so, it was Apple TV, for an actual Apple TV. And, hey, Gene Munster, where is that Apple TV these days? The one that you kept saying was right around the corner. Where is it?
Was he an analyst?
Well, and unfortunately, no, that wasn't it. I actually had something that we used for Gene Munster, and if I'd known I was going to say his name, I would have been ready. But I'm not, and so I'm not going to do it. So analysts love to use Apple's name to
Are
hype.
you saying, Guy, that
Go ahead.
this factory is not going to be building Apple cars? Is that
That's
what
kind of
I'm-
what I'm saying.
is that
I
what I'm hearing you saying? Really?
just can't see it. And the other thing that's been in the news, I don't have it here in the notes, is that apparently, according to analysts, which anytime you say those three words, according to analysts, take a good deep breath of whatever it is they say next, because
it
it's
makes
going to
you-
have a certain smell.
It makes
Okay.
it makes your blood boil, doesn't it?
It does. It really, really does. They're saying that one of the other things that they're going to do, that Apple is pushing for the batteries for this Apple car to be made here in the United States. And they're really firm on that. And so a bunch of companies have dropped out because they just don't feel that they can do it. Build a factory here in the United States to make batteries for a non-existent car. Now, and for people who haven't followed the drama of the Apple car here on the MyMac podcast, you have a definitive idea of what this really means.
Oh yes. Oh right. Okay. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, it was
Really?
like,
Is this-
let's throw gas under the EV bus.
Yes.
Give him absolutely no warning that this is
But-
coming. So here's
No.
something that you need to talk about, Gaz, right now.
What do I need to talk about? Because
Your opinion on Apple cars.
my opinion on Apple cars, look, it's a service, Guy. It's a service, right? And Apple need to be in the game of producing and providing a service within a car. Whether they produce a service car in terms of producing their own cars, which is going to be many, many years in the future, or whether they produce a software which is going to go into EV cars and the like, which means that their software is being used to do all of the searching for you and to be private, rather than having an Android service in the car, which is mostly what happens in these EV cars. Most of the new EV manufacturers are putting an Android OS in there, and guess what that means? It's all Google, it's all Waze. You know what that means, folks. But equally, I've always said that I think that Apple will be producing not a car but a service, and I still think that is going to be the key to their car exploits. Sorry, you threw me completely, because I was going to jump.
Sorry.
I was going to jump into the fact that I think that the person's company or governing body putting at risk my ability to be able to choose. But you didn't. Then I thought it doesn't want that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it's a service that they're going to be producing. It's not going to be a car. It might be a car in combination with another manufacturer, but they are wanting to get into the software side of vehicles. Nice ears.
You'll have to watch the video to see what I was just doing.
Anyway, I agree with you, Guy.
Oh, all right. So I guess that means we're
Well, it's up to you, unless you've got anything more to say, because there's not a lot to say, really. Is there on that? It's just
well, it's honestly, I would love to see an Apple car.
why? Tell me why.
I think that the software and hardware integration that Apple is known for lends itself very, very well to something along these lines. And the fact that they have almost no experience in it means that they're starting with roughly a clean slate. What I would not surprise me is if Apple bought their way into the market via buying like Fisker or something along those. They're not gonna buy Tesla, because they're not gonna deal with.
And who wants to buy
insanity
Tesla? Who wants to buy a Tesla?
Yeah, well, and I don't think they want to deal with the insanity that sometimes
That
the
is
companies,
Elon Musk,
right? So, but Fisker has plans. They have working prototypes of cars, and it would make more sense for Apple to buy into something like that than to do a clean sheet approach, because that would take 10 years or more.
They're not. Apple aren't going to be producing a car. They are, as I say, it's going to be the service of a car, which means that they are going to piggyback on the body of a car, but they are going to be producing the software, I think.
Yeah, and by buying, and the thing is, if they bought something like Fisker, I don't think they would change the name. I think it would remain Fisker with stuff inside as supplied by Apple.
Cool.
It would be associated enough with Apple to where you wouldn't have to worry about, people saying, well, is Apple involved with this company? It was like, yeah, I think they are. All right, that's all I got. What did you think?
I agree with you.
Oh, good. You're nodding your head.
Hit it. Gaz's tips.
Mostly.
Gaz's tips.
Mostly.
Gaz's tips.
It's time for
Gaz's tip. Right.
Whoop.
Holding the
There we
control. Oh, right. I'll start again because now I'm full screen on YouTube.
right.
Holding the control key whilst doing any of the screenshot commands copies, i.e., control plus shift plus command plus 1, 2, 3, 4. It copies the screenshot to your clipboard instead of saving a file to your desktop. Now, this is quite useful if you just want to quickly take a screenshot and then paste that copied screenshot into a document, rather than it dumping the screenshot in the location which you, again, a tip that I've given, a location which you can point to, rather than you then having to go to that location, picking up that screenshot and then dumping it into your document. If you want to do a quick screenshot, if you go Control plus Shift plus Command plus the copy command, the screenshot command that you want, it then copies it to the memory and you can then just quickly paste it into your document. Yes. Hit it. That's the end of Gaz's tips. That's the end of Gaz's tips. That's the end of Gaz's tips.
Is that the end of the tip?
Will you let me finish?
Gaz, you are absolutely right.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I'm very confused. It's almost like I have no control over my fingers as I hit these various buttons. Almost, Gaz.
Almost no control.
You have a link here. Is that from last week or is that this week's link?
Oh yes, no, that's last week's.
Okay,
link
then
about
we won't even
mention it. No. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to
Move
see here.
along.
Ignore these are not the links you were looking for.
These are not the links you thought they might be.
But speaking of links, I do have a link a link for a pick. Or a pick link.
A pick link?
A linked pick.
You've got a picking link.
You careful.
I was careful.
Yeah, because I can't find it now, but I do have. There it is. Because that would have been right on time in case you said something naughty. Right on time. I have a pick. It's over in YouTube for people who are fans of old, like 1930s to 1950s Warner Brothers, Disney, MGM, all these different companies that were making cartoons that they used to show before movies. There was a director producer that both Warner Brothers and MGM employed for a period of time. His name is Tex Avery. And
everybody must know the name Tex Avery who watched any.
Well,
sort
if you watched it, the stuff that he did for Warner Brothers, it always came out Fred Avery, because the Leon Schlesinger, I think his name is, who was the head guy.
Didn't he produce tennis balls?
Schlesinger?
Some people will get that.
Name.
Some people will get that. So
okay, wait,
I'll leave it there.
Right over
I'll leave
my
it
head.
there. I'll leave it there.
So anyway, this guy, Tex Avery, produced some of the funniest cartoons that came out of both MGM and Warner Brothers. And there was one in particular, I think this was MGM while he was there. It's called Symphony and Slang. And it's about a guy who dies and his misadventures trying to get into the gates of heaven. And it is very, very funny. And I highly recommend it. There'll be a link in the show notes, or you can just go over to YouTube, look up Symphony and Slang, and watch it for yourself. It's so great. I love it.
I have yet to watch it, but I should be watching it straight after.
But I
we
just
finish
like
recording.
right in between the two segments, we had no picks for this week, and somehow or another, I don't know how, I
that
don't
pick,
know why,
it appeared
popped
from
into my
nowhere,
head.
didn't it? Yeah, it popped into your
my very
tangential brain.
and then once it was there, it was like, no, I'm not leaving.
It was not. It was
Not until it's on paper. I'm not going to leave. So everybody wins. through my insanity.
Everybody wins. Now,
So to
have we got any feedback this week, Guy?
We do. We have two of the feedbacks.
Two of the feedbacks.
Two of the feedbacks. We got one from email. Sort of. Well, actually, it's not email. It was more like a message in messages. And it was from what's his name? Carl Madden, I think.
Comadden.
No, never. You heard of him?
No.
All right. He lives over there in the UK, so I'm surprised you guys don't know each other because everybody knows everybody in the UK.
We do. Yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly how that works.
I know the Queen, you know.
Yeah, how's she doing these days?
She's fine.
Fine. Good. Long may she reign. All right.
She said to say hi, by the way.
You know what? I was gonna say I sent her a card last week. Yeah. And I didn't hear back. So I'm glad you straightened that out.
She is busy. She is busy. She's got a bit of arthritis in her fingers, so she can't write back all the time.
I understand completely. She is the queen. So Carl Madden says, a little feedback for you chaps. Gaz's tip last week regarding disabling Wi-Fi when out and about works gangbusters. Extended my battery life so much for each day I'm out driving using the sat nav, playing podcasts, listening to music, doing calls, and so many other things on my phone, and the device managed to last all day long without needing a recharge. And that's just turning off Wi-Fi. However, he wouldn't have been able to do any of those things if he'd gone into airplane mode. So that's not the same thing. If you need your phone for those other things, just turn off Wi-Fi because chances are you're not going to use it while out and about driving. So why don't you read that second one? This one was from Twitter.
Yeah, that's from Nibs UK, who's he's actually a close associate to Carl, I believe, as well. Mm-hmm. So there you go. MyMac 860 once would be an anomaly. Teeth are enamelly.
And there are sea creatures named anomalies. No, not anomalies. Oh God! I just blew the whole joke.
I'm going to leave you there now.
What the hell do they call them?
I'm going to leave you right in the middle of the
anemone. Anemone. There. I feel better. They're anemones. Because with fronds like these, who needs anemones? Anyway.
Nibs UK is now thinking, why have you destroyed it for me?
See, this is all Nibs UK fault.
Yeah.
It's his fault right there.
Nibbling.
So if you would like to help support this show and some of the other shows.
And why would you?
Why wouldn't you? I think that's the bigger question. Quality entertainment such as this does not come around every day of the week.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. It's once a week. That's all it does. You can help support the show by going to Patreon, patreon.com/MacPettit. You can go to Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/MacParrot, or you can pay a pal, Gaz, by going to paypal.me/MacParrot. There we go. I knew there was one in there somewhere. So, Gaz, if people wanted to get a hold of you and say, thank God this show is only once a week, how would they do that?
Send an email to gaz@mymac.com. That's jz@mymac.com, or on the Twitters, twitter.com/gazmaz, GAZMAZ. You can also send a tweet on the Twitters to both Guy and myself. Twitter.com. I completely forgot what it was then. Twitter.com/Guy and Gaz, GUYANDGAZ.
Cars.
Oh, fancy forgetting.
Yeah, you can reach us on the Twitters by going to what is that service called?
You can also send an email to feedback@mymac.com, FWEDBACK. Now,
yeah.
Guy.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Guy.
Right. Okay.
He's the guy.
Oh, you.
Guy.
Guy?
You remember Guy?
No fooling.
Oh, thank
Guy
you.
says.
Pay no attention to that guy behind the curtain.
Wait, hold on. I screwed up.
No.
It's so close.
no.
Every
Guy's
week
the
it
one.
is so close.
If you want,
An email from
how would they do it,
all
Guy?
you'd have to do is open up an email client and then in the send field, push it off to Guy. Guy at
Guy.
mymac.com. You can also reach me on the
What is it? Is it
That's-
Tutors?
it Twitters.
Twatters.
It's the TW service. Mac Parrot and Vert Shark.
No, I'm not doing it.
It's not doing it. Oh, okay.
I'm not
All
doing
right.
it.
It's checking.
Not doing it.
You'll wait for the most inopportune time to completely screw me. There we go. Very good. You can also reach us via our Skype telephone number, which is 1 or +1 outside of the United States, 703-436-9501. Look out, there's a shark. You can also still call that number. I'm blowing this whole thing. 1 or +1. I'm so flustered. 1 or +1, area code 703-436-9501. Or take that 1 and +1 and put it in an envelope and ship it off to Siberia, because you don't need it if you use the Skype application and then just dial 703-436-9501.
Wow.
Okay, I know. Sometimes, I'm getting up there, so it takes longer and longer these days for most things. But we won't go into that.
Really don't want to know.
Yeah, we just won't talk about those things. But it's the circle of life. So anyway, now that my impending doom has been addressed, thank you. Thanks to everyone who downloads and or listens or watches the MyMac.com podcast. We really, really do appreciate the fact that you have done so. And Gaz, now that I'm giving it some thought for the last 10, 11 years, I think that we're good enough. I really do. It's like written in stone. Should be on Mount Rushmore.
I think I'm beginning to agree with you.
Yeah, and I think we're smart enough.
Well, there are some things that I'm beginning to agree with you.
Okay, and that Wilf Gonnet, Woof. What a cute little pup. People like us.
Kan ikke kry bil som en ikke stede. George Washington. Guy.
Yes.
My girlfriend poked me in the eye last week. Oh. Well, in both eyes, in fact. So I've stopped seeing her for a while. And
So you can all go home and there's nothing to worry about. Get out of here now. Go on home and go home.